Bitcoin Season 2 is back, and it's not just Charlie this time. I have
We're back, baby.
Blockspace co-founder Will Foxley. We just spent the past week in Nashville at Bitcoin 2024 and associated conferences like Inscribing Nashville, where we did a metric ton of media. It was a whirlwind week, and given that this is our first kind of touch point publicly since that week, we will do a little bit of a debrief from that. Will, have you managed to recover and sleep since Nashville?
I have, and I'm having my mic obnoxiously close to my mouth because I'm in a small room and we don't want the audio to.
Yes, and it matches your
hell.
hat. So anyone who's listening, Will's wearing an Ordinals hat in the style of the OG Ordinals hat.
Do you have more of these hats?
We do actually. My wife and I, who helped do the Inscribing Nashville conference, took home all the merchandise, but I have with me the OG Ordinals hat.
If you have more of those hats you're willing to give away, we could give away one to people who subscribe to the new Bitcoin Season 2 YouTube channel. If you subscribe to it.
What was that, Will? We have a new channel launching for Bitcoin Season 2?
We do. So we moved all the channels around, which we won't dwell on this. We won't get to the Bitcoin news. But if you subscribe to the new Bitcoin Season 2 YouTube channel, which I will drop the link in the chat in a second, then we will put you in a raffle for one of the hats. So let's grab that link. Give me a second to do that. Charlie, I caught up from last week pretty well. I'm feeling pretty good. I try not to drink at conferences. There's the link in the chat now. I try not to drink at conferences because guess what? Destroys you. We did 16 interviews at Nashville between yourself, myself, and the Gort Show. So running AV, scheduling people, running around, going to moderate panels. It was a lot, but it was a really good week. How about yourself?
Tons of interviews, yeah. So, I mean, if you're listening to this, we'll get into the meat of this particular Bitcoin Season 2. But I mean, I interviewed Casey and Parker. I think that'll be the first public conversation they've had on the new collection. Zach Meyer of Ord.io, the Ordinals bot team, Mike Hamilton again, Udi, Top Quantum Cats, and also David Say of Babylon Chain. That one of the more interesting technical conversations I've had on this show. Look for all of those coming out in the new Bitcoin Season 2 YouTube. But without further ado, we are going to talk about several things this episode, from the Trump takeaways to runes are dead to an interesting actor, a sophisticated, perhaps malicious actor in Ordinals. And then we'll bookend it with a new type of transaction relay on Bitcoin if you want to get super technical at the very end. So, Will, I'm going to send it to you first. We had a tweet which just takes some of the highlight photos of our Inscribing Nashville conference where both you and I spoke on stage. But it kind of captured a lot of what we were doing. We spoke a lot on Bitcoin and to this hybrid Bitcoin and Bitcoin mining audience. You wrote a blog on the 3 takeaways for Bitcoin miners from Nashville for the Blockspace newsletter. Can you summarize this for me?
Yeah, no, we should just go through the quotes. So Inscribed Nashville is great. A lot of my focus is with the mining pod and that kind of stuff is focused on Bitcoin mining, which has a great overlap with Ordinals. There's actually a decent amount of Bitcoin miners I saw in the crowd, people running operations, even public companies who are just interested in Ordinals. So they sent a team member to Inscribe just to learn about it. But the main thing, of course, was the Trump speech, which happened on Saturday. There was a delay and everyone was super pumped for it, but it really did not disappoint. 3 lines that I went and pulled out from the 45-minute speech that I thought mattered most for Bitcoin miners are in this newsletter, which you can get if you just go to blockspace.media and then click the subscribe button, and you can get this to your email inbox twice per week. The first one was reducing regulation and increasing domestic energy production. He had that great line from a few years ago where he talks about how we're just going to keep winning. We're going to be winning so much. We're begging for us not to win anymore. He redid the line and just made it about electricity and said, please, Mr. President, please stop making more electricity.
We're going to make too much electricity. You'll have too much electricity coming out of your ears.
Yeah. Fantastic line. The crowd went nuts during that, just laughing. Next one was on Bitcoin to be mined, minted, and made in the USA, which just like very concise and strong talking point, which obviously Trump is known for, like these little lines. And he just wants Bitcoin to be made here. He wants all crypto to be made here. He made that point a few times, and like there was a few boos, but for the most part, like it was kind of funny to see like Bitcoiners who anyone else on stage, if they're talking about crypto on the Nakamoto stage, would just be booing that person for talking about crypto. But Trump talked about crypto, and there wasn't too many peeps, just out of respect for the moment there. And then the last thing is for America to have the lowest cost of energy production globally. Why does this matter? Well, for all these AI or manufacturing or Bitcoin companies, the lower the cost of energy just lowers your capex, it lowers your ROI period. And for him to say, hey, we want to use fossil fuels, we want to make nuclear happen, we want to lower the cost of energy in the US, that is a huge boon for Bitcoin miners. And it's big for just domestic manufacturing, big for AI. So Bitcoin miners love to hear this. And I had some friends who work at the large miners go to Mar-a-Lago in June, I think it was. And they met with Trump, and he gave him a shout out in this talk, talking about how the people in the Bitcoin mining space, especially, are actually more friendly to each other than he's seen in other industries. And I think that's just a nod to Bitcoin, the asset, and the people it draws, and then to how early it is in terms of the production of these companies. It's still very small in terms of who's running these large size companies. They might be big, they might be worth billions of dollars at this point, but there's not that many people at these companies still. So it's still a fresh industry. And I thought that was notable that Trump called it out. So great time for Bitcoin mining at Bitcoin Nashville.
And then the irony is, so at the conference, Trump said, we're not going to sell any Bitcoin. I commit to not selling any of the U.S. government's seized Bitcoins. Remember, it's the Bitcoin they have acquired through various seizure and forfeiture processes. But he commits to not selling that. Huge. But the irony then is that immediately within 48 hours, the U.S. government has moved a considerable amount of its Bitcoin, $2 billion, in fact, to another address. So, is this coincidental? Is this like a snap back from the current administration? Who knows? Remains to be seen. We don't know what's gonna happen with it, but it is funny and just classic politics to see this. I wonder if they know that everything is just on chain.
Yeah, I don't know if this was, you'd have to imagine this was a direct response. The other thing that came out of the conference was them talking about where this Bitcoin had come from. And Trump called it out on stage, even actually kind of defeated the moment where he's calling for the Bitcoin strategic reserve. He goes, well, this Bitcoin was actually taken from you. And this is, he goes on the call like the US government fascist, even a line later, for taking this Bitcoin. This Bitcoin obviously was mostly taken through criminal seizure, right? Where they went and took people's Bitcoin. Some of it criminal, some of it just allegations, and some of it neither of those things, just the government taking people's Bitcoin. But they committed to not selling, which is bullish because it's 1% of the supply. Before the conference, everyone was really upset about Germany selling Bitcoin and that affecting price or possibly affecting price. And for the US not to sell Bitcoin under a Trump administration would be very big. There was not a note in his talk for buying Bitcoin, even though Senator Cynthia Lummis of Wyoming later did say that the US should buy Bitcoin. She's going to introduce a bill to do that. But Trump did not commit to doing that. And I think that made the whole moment a little underwhelming for people. They're expecting for the strategic reserve to include buy my bag, and it did not. So there it was, I won't sell your bag, but I won't buy your bag. And then noted with like the criminal element of how the US government got these coins, it just really kind of neutered the whole line. The thing that people loved the most, of course, was the Gary Gensler line, which the energy in the room was electric. People went completely nuts.
Yeah, the energy in the room was electric. We had electricity coming out of our ears. I think it's funny because, like, just the former U.S. president and clear and polymarket favored president currently clearly endorsed a Bitcoin and a very Bitcoin forward view. But the actual announcements seemed underwhelming in the moment. But just on paper, it is one of the most defining like periods in Bitcoin. So we'll see how this goes. There's certainly innumerable takes. Will, let's get into our favorite thing, which is the Ordinals and Runes. Well, maybe not our favorite thing because if you look at the current Runes market cap, according to Genie data, the Runes market cap is now below $1 billion. So $950 million worth of Runes in market cap. This is not good. This has been a down and to the right trend for 2 months now. Please, Mr. Trump, could you maybe announce a strategic Wanko reserve? I mean, like, look at this volume. Just look at this volume. This is anemic. This is declining. This is not very optimistic. I think, in the past 24 to 48 hours, since I've been back from the conference, I've heard the first thing people talk about when they're back, boots on the ground, back on the internet, is how difficult and structurally broken the Runes trading experience is. And they and the idea as well, because it's so clunky, that's why it's not succeeding. But I would also just point to, like, other crypto assets are down depending on where you are. The meme coin class is down, and these are meme coins. So while Solana's up, Ethereum's up, Bitcoin's up, the rest of your the secular meme coin trends down to the right. So that's the kind of association I have with that. This then also applies to Ordinals collection prices. This is the 7-day view on Magic Eden. Floors over the past 7 days of Minier Blue Chip, Node Monks, Puppets, OMBs, Aeons. Yeah, I said Aeons are blue chip. Based Angels down anywhere from 5 to 25%. So, however, there may be something going on here, Will. There may be something interesting that is not just
Walk us
related
through
to
it.
not normal market factors. So, this has not been discussed publicly. Some people have identified a couple events happening, but there may be a sophisticated actor manipulating Ordinals collection floor prices. What do I mean by this? So on the Magic Eden, marketplace, you can sweep a bunch of inscriptions. You can sweep like 10, 20 more or so. And you can cancel the sweep by replacing a single one of those transactions. You can RBF one of those transactions in the sweep, and it basically cancels the sweep offer. So what's happening is that there's an actor. It appears to be like a single actor repeatedly doing this with several blue chip collections, where someone will buy and sweep these underpriced floors, and then the seller, who is this actor, will then replace for a modest amount, maybe $15, maybe $20, like the entire collection. So by that, you can kind of spoof and drop the floor and wear out the market. So this is interesting. You can bait people into flooring their JPEGs, or you can bait people into increasing the sale of their JPEGs who maybe could flip to a couple of years. So this is interesting. I am still just kind of reviewing the initial events that look like this. I have not been able to dive into it very much. But just from my conversations with other folks in the ecosystem, this appears to be someone who is pretty savvy and has a pretty quick mechanism to replace conditionally these transactions. So maybe look for more of my own tweets or Blockspace official account tweets on this topic, and maybe a newsletter on it. I would like to get some, I would say, specialists in the ecosystem to help review this with me. This is one of the more interesting mechanics, I think, happening in the public Bitcoin mempool. What are your thoughts, Will? I know you may have just.
I'm upset. I bought a quantum cat, and then it went down in price. So I'm underwater bag holder of Udi, and I'm asking for a refund publicly. I'm kind of curious what you think about the collections right now. I think like node bunks and Bitcoin puppets are like really, really low at the moment. And I'm wondering if you have any opinions on what the flippening for those things look like. Because last time we were at this price in, say, March, this was a much more frothy market. And like think Node Monks got up to like 0.85 floor. Bitcoin puppets were really high as well. And now they're both like very low, but Bitcoin price is, kind of hitting that all-time high once again.
I mean, I'm famously the guy who kind of just misfires regularly on collection valuation, and I don't think I'm particularly dialed into the collector or degen mindset. But I gotta say, like, I like the cats, I like the node monks, I like the puppets, I like OMBs, I like them all. Um, I own them all. I feel that if if the broader NFT market is to pick up, I would expect these to catch a bid. The last time we were at 70K, these things were at 5 to 10x their current value in Bitcoin. So it's surprising to me. I just feel that, I've talked about this over the past year. These are basic, these, you would expect these to be kind of like beta assets to the Bitcoin price itself. And there may be a lag to the Bitcoin price itself. And there may be a relationship between the fungible token and meme coin successes on Bitcoin and other chains, which then waterfalls into the price of these assets as some of the newly wealthy meme coin degens take profits in cats. So seems to me that we have to see other sectors of the market pick up and the market just to get frothier. Right now, it seems to be the comparatively safer Bitcoin plays which catch a bid, or the comparatively safer crypto plays which catch a bid. The Bitcoin, the Ethereum, and the Solana base tokens. So I will end this with the ordinal section with some hopium, Will. So don't fear
Opium.
yeah, there are people who have cash to buy your cat. This great tweet from Ren over at Electric Capital basically says, if we look at all the wallets which have bought these inscriptions, they have dry powder that is just Bitcoin sitting in their accounts. They have about $400 million worth of dry powder. This at least as of a week ago. So these wallets are sitting on some serious Bitcoin. They've demonstrated history of buying these inscriptions and other types of like fungible token assets. They could begin to activate again. They could start bidding up these JPEGs. So I will throw that hopium out there. Does that make you feel any better, Will?
I like seeing the dry powder stuff. My first thought on this was like, how'd they get this info? Because it's kind of interesting how you built these things out. I've seen this for other DeFi apps. These things happen, like float around crypto. These charts do all the time. So that's where my first thought went to. Dry powder on the sidelines. Is it really dry powder, or is them just kind of tracking where people probably took profit and then moved into stables? And they're saying like those stables might come back in, which they very well might. But like that's often what we see with this kind of metric is like people look at stablecoin reserves that are kind of sitting there, and then once we're on chain in the form of like another crypto asset, and they're sitting in stables again, and they're expecting those stables to move back in when there's a good opportunity or there's momentum, which often is the case, right? There's momentum swings and people dump in again, but that was my first thought. Second thought is if this is true and there's dry powder and this rotates back in, that's bullish. But we're not that kind of, we're not the price chat.
One of the interesting things is that that there's not really many stables on Bitcoin. There's a handful of like rune-backed stable type schemes or Bitcoin-backed rune stables that are out there, and then there's the notable rune is BAMP of Nakamoto dollar, which is a stable coin which has Bitcoin backing, but it's a rune stable coin. So I'm not sure if this like Bitcoin right now, it appears that instead of compared to other chains where people would take profits in USDC or USDT, like people take profits in Bitcoin, it appears. So I do expect that to change eventually, because I would expect with more DeFi type activity, if I want to even introduce that term, we would expect to see stables or synthetic assets, which are the comparative stable currency. Okay. Now we're going to get a little technical to wrap this up. If you're still with us, we had
You're
these
still with us really quickly, Charlie.
Yeah.
Go and click on the link in the comments and subscribe to the new Bitcoin Season 2 YouTube channel. We're kind of segmenting our shows so with Mining Pod YouTube channel, Bitcoin Season 2 YouTube channel, Gort Show YouTube channel. So if you like one of these shows that we do on Blockspace, go subscribe to it individually. We think that's a better way of interacting with this content. And if you do that and then reply to the tweet that we put out on our Twitter account, then we will include you in a raffle for an OG Ordinals hat, which
As
I'm
is
wearing right
evidenced by the one Will is wearing right now.
Sorry to interrupt, but
Oh, no,
gotta
no, you're
show it.
good because we're about to get a little technical here. So if you don't understand anything, that's okay. I barely understand it myself, but basically, a new type of transaction, a version 3 transaction, has been confirmed for the first time on chain. So we see what's called a version 3 transaction on Bitcoin. It's basically this idea that Gloria Zhao, now one of the more prominent Bitcoin Core developers and maintainers, proposed a while back, about a year ago. And it's a simple, modest improvement on just how transactions are relayed. That is, how transactions get passed from node to node. And it's a new set of rules in addition to the existing relay rules, which say we're going to solve some issues or reduce some of the challenges with what's called transaction pinning. This is basically an attack where people can make it very difficult with some techniques such as over 25 descendants to like unstick transactions in a really simple term. This basically helps some of these layer 2 protocols, most specifically Lightning, reduces the surface area for attacks. And then version 3 transactions are used by what are called ephemeral anchors. And an ephemeral anchor, I'll read this here, is a proposal to relay transactions even if they don't pay a transaction fee. So basically, you can child pays for parent, if you've heard this term, and you can basically have feeless children or feeless parents and have the child pay for all of those. These are some simple, modest improvements to Bitcoin. It's kind of cool to see the first of these transactions appear out in the wild. So if you're listening to this and you don't understand what's happening, maybe this is probably something which we would expect to be added to a future version of Bitcoin Core, and those Bitcoin Core clients eventually start relaying version 3 transactions somewhere in the future. Do you have any thoughts or additional comments on this, Will?
Okay, I have a few thoughts. So one, Gloria's been more of to my knowledge, and this is somewhat secondhand, she's been more of the opinion that things do need to change with mempool construction of transactions, and like that a lot of these filtering rules are kind of stupid. And so I think my understanding of her perspective is that this needs to be opened up a little bit more. That is counter to a lot of people who are in like the ordinal disrespecter world, the ocean pool world, which, by the way, we just did an awesome podcast with Bitcoin Mechanic that will be coming out on the Mining Pod next month. So go subscribe to that as well. Probably one of my favorite interviews I've done this year. And I've talked to a lot of Bitcoin miners this year. And I think you kind of changed my opinion on a lot of things as well, because just well thought out discussion. This itself, I don't think I have too many thoughts on in particular. I just think that it's interesting to see someone who's in Bitcoin Core actively discussing how these things need to change. It also reminded me of the thing we did with Alchemia at Bitcoin Nashville. Alchemia is a new Bitcoin project. It's sort of like a DeFi project that allows you to long or short Bitcoin transaction fees and basically hedge your transaction fee costs if you're a wallet or a miner, basically like DeFi infrastructure. And Nifty and I was there. We talked on stage a little bit about like mempool policies and filtering and things like that. And she was of the opinion things are going to need to change. Like things will have to change at some point. And I think this sort of shows you that logic is moving ahead. We saw it at Bitcoin Plus Plus, which, Charlie, you and I went down there. We saw a lot of people talking about not only this, but also new opcodes. So there's definitely a lot happening in Bitcoin Core right now, and then also outside of Bitcoin Core. And even though these blog posts and these things on the mailing list can seem very, very boring, They are super important for what we call decentralized money.
Yeah, and for the degens who wonder what it means for their transactions, it doesn't mean anything. It's not it, as far as I can tell, it doesn't affect your ordinals, it doesn't affect your transactions. It's more of a demonstration that we're going to get, it seems like that core may get a little more involved in relay policy, but this is this is a conversation that comes and goes every few years in core, so it seems like it's back on the menu. My subjective opinion is that I personally really like this. I think this is very good, but we want to allow a dynamic range of opinions on this topic. So
Yes.
for more opinions on all things Bitcoin, culture, tech, ordinals, runes, in the future, go to
7 subscribers. We got to do a giveaway. We got to do a giveaway something.
Yeah.
7
At
subs.
100 subscribers, we'll give away another hat. So 100
Another hat.
subscribers, we'll give away another hat. Make sure you go to YouTube and search Bitcoin Season 2. We do not have a custom URL yet, but it's clearly the Bitcoin Season 2 handle. So all future shows will be published there. Again, comment. We'll be giving away a Ordinals hat.
We got to give away an ordinal at some point, or an inscription at some point. We got to find a nice value inscription and
Yes.
give it away. Bribe
Well,
people to subscribe.
If you figure out who the malicious actor flooring your blue chip collections are, and help us co-write an expose newsletter, we will give you an Ordinals hat. So
Awesome.
that's a spicy take. Otherwise, yeah, thanks for tuning into Bitcoin Season 2 content. We're adding to our team over at Blockspace. Make sure to check out our other content, the Mining Pod and the Gwart Show. Subscribe to the newsletter, blockspace.media, and hit the newsletter subscribe button. Any other calls to action, Will?
Oh, we got so many. So Gwart Show comes out on Sundays. That's the best in crypto Twitter, condensed into podcast format. Long form podcasts are normally an hour and a half to 2 hours, but you catch up on all the things that are happening across Blockspace. Mining Pod, we did 4 or 5 shows down in Nashville, really good in-person shows, ups the quality quite a bit. We'll be dropping those on Tuesday, and then on Fridays, we have our news roundup for things in Bitcoin mining. And then, of course, Bitcoin Season 2, new YouTube channel we just put out this morning, so go and subscribe to that. Lastly, go hit up our newsletter, which we try to put out twice per week. It's been a little shaky the last few weeks, but twice per week has consistently been the charm for it. And that's the written version of a lot of what you see in Bitcoin Season 2, to be honest. Okay, I think we can kind of wrap up there. If you didn't catch all this, though, there's a podcast version as well. We have these nice mics for a reason.
Yep, we got those SM7Bs. Otherwise, see you all next week. Adios.